5, 4, 3, 2, 1. CTS Podcast, episode 73. We're back. It's been a minute. We're back, though.
You never say the episodes at the beginning. That's like my whole thing. So thanks for taking away my favorite part of the podcast. That's good. Yeah. So a bunch of classified documents were found. The DOJ they've assigned a special prosecutor to the case.
Pretty funny that happened so recently after the whole Trump thing with it.
Well, they found new documents in his garage. Did you
see the thing with his locked up Corvette? He's like, the reporter is like, they found documents sitting right next to your Corvette in your garage. And he goes, well, I have it. The Corvette's nice. You think I don't keep that locked up?
Yeah. Well, it's just funny the justification that people are trying to do to say it's not as bad as Trump.
What's the justification they're trying to do?
That he informed the DOJ, so it's okay. That he informed the DOJ that they found documents. So it's like a self-snitch.
So it's cool. It's okay.
I mean, if you murder someone, as long as you let people know you're the imposter. If you self-report, you're good.
All good.
So pretty crazy, pretty embarrassing. This is the first big hiccup of the administration, it seems.
First, you think?
Is something this big? Yeah. This is impeachable, in my opinion.
Was the biggest hiccup, right? I'd say the first big.
I mean, what other big hiccups would you say?
I just mean, it's not like things have gone super smoothly.
Yeah, I guess when I say big hiccup, I mean,
impeachable offenses.
Yeah. The first of those.
Okay.
So, and then obviously we had a bunch of stuff with McCarthy, which was also pretty crazy. He had to make a bunch of concessions to some of the weirdos on the far right of the caucus. They are weirdos, for the most part. Matt Gaetz, Steve Scalise.
Well, how about the fight in Congress?
Pretty crazy.
How is that real?
What was the name of that guy that punched out at him?
There's too many representatives. There's too many people in the House of Representatives. I can't keep track of every single one.
Yeah, and it just kind of shows that, I think that if you're in the House of Representatives, I think everyone just kind of wants to be a senator. I can't imagine not wanting to get out of that crap.
Well, and as long as you're you're probably fine if you're kind of one of the high up people, you're a committee chair, people like that. But there's got to be, I think we've talked about this before, but the 25th representative from California, that no one really cares about. What?
Dude, you know what we haven't talked about yet before I forget? George Santos. We haven't even talked about George Santos.
Yeah.
So we'll put the Kevin McCarthy stuff to the side. McCarthy ended up getting the votes. He made a bunch of concessions to these far-right members of Congress. There was 15 votes that took place in order to get him there. But I think probably the funniest news of the last couple months is George Santos, who lied. Just lied about everything on his resume.
Literally
said he
everything.
Went to college. He's never been to higher education, ever. They've found no record of it. Said he's a Jew. He's not a Jew. And then the funniest part is when they accused him of it, when they found out, hey, there's big Jewish nonprofit organizations that are saying you're not a Jew. He said he's Jewish. Jew, a little bit Jew. You know what I mean? And then he said his parents were something about them in the Holocaust, or maybe his grandparents. No record of it found.
Well, there's also a bunch of crazy stuff about he was on the board of investors of these finance things, and he not.
Which is a weird claim because it's so easy to disprove.
Well, he said he played college volleyball at some school, and he didn't. He just lied about literally everything. And
the Republicans have shunned him out.
I should hope so.
A lot of the Republicans, especially back in New York, they're not happy about it.
Well, how is he still that feels like impeachable offense.
It should be. Yeah. The problem is members of Congress, after they're elected, it's really difficult to like go back, because you have to say, okay, well, they got the votes, but even if they lied, everyone lies. But these were some howlers, and he is being investigated by the Ethics Committee in Congress. And Brazil came out and said that they're reopening an investigation of fraud, which is where he's originally from. So kind of crazy circumstances around that. Everyone seems to have turned on him. Fox News isn't even a big fan.
Well, how is that real? How do you come out and I just don't even understand like how nobody called him on it before he got elected.
Oh, they did. That's what I heard, is that they did. I heard that people on his campaign told him to resign and told Republican higher-ups about what was going on, and they just turned a blind eye, is the new reporting that was out this last week. So the campaign people said, hey, you're making all of this stuff up. You need to resign before this stuff comes out.
That's crazy. It's a wild power move to come out and just totally falsify everything you're running on.
Yeah, that's pretty ballsy to just say, and at one point does it stop? I mean, he shouldn't have stopped it. Like, he should have just said, I'm a Harvard graduate with 14 degrees.
He kind of did. His claims aren't that much less ridiculous than just, and some of them are just absurd.
Yeah, some of them are pretty crazy. So definitely some weird stuff going on with George Santos. I don't know of any other big members of Congress that there's a bunch of ill will about in the media right now. I'm trying to think. I don't really think there's anything else as far as members of Congress.
Yeah.
But war in Ukraine still going on. Dude, did you see that video? We don't have to talk about it.
I don't know what video you're talking about.
The video of the Russian mercenary that found those Ukrainians
sitting
in that.
Jeez.
So a Russian mercenary finds these Ukrainians sitting they're like hiding
like
in
shelter?
trench, like an open hole.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there and they put their hands up and they're like, friendly, prisoner. And it didn't end well for them.
Really?
And it was, it's been posted online, and it's just, I think people don't realize how bad war is.
Well,
like, it's very, very easy to say, oh, Ukraine's going to come out on top. We believe in the Ukraine. It's like, I don't think you guys realize, the media can't show what's really going on there. And it's very Hollywooded, which means like, it's kind of glamorized almost, this fight for freedom. People don't realize, they're fighting in villages. I mean,
this is the first time I feel like that
would have been bad.
that like a war like this has been so kind of documented, like, and that like kind of access to just like on the ground footage has been so available that it's just like on social media and stuff.
Yeah. Because you got to figure, even in Iraq, we're talking about 2001. How many people had smartphones with cameras that could
Stuff
upload
like that, and
social media in 2001?
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. And, it's being reported that a third of Ukraine's power plants have been destroyed. No one has power right now.
Wild.
And I don't think, the messaging and narrative that we get in the West is that Ukraine is, they're doing well in the war. They're pushing back in certain parts, and they have done well considering they're up against Russia. But if you look at what Russia's done to that place, they've decimated it. A lot of Ukraine, they've just straight up decimated it. They haven't made it into Kyiv successfully yet, but I can't imagine that it doesn't continue getting worse and the Ukrainian people just kind of lose their resolve. But maybe not.
I've been saying this the whole time. I think it ends when Putin dies.
He could be around for another while, another 10 years.
Remember those videos? He just looks so sick.
It's hard. It's so hard to say though. It's like, because I mean, look at Biden. You could pull up a million videos of Biden and say this dude's on his deathbed.
But not like I don't know if you could pull up like, because it's not like those videos where you were searching out videos of him looking sick. It was like, oh, this is just what he looks like right now. Like, they weren't cherry-picked videos. It was just the last videos that have come out.
He definitely looks not the same as he used. Like, he definitely looks more... Like, when I thought of Putin, I thought of, like, oh, a strong guy. You know, he doesn't kind of give off that.
Well, he just looks unwell.
And he looks stressed.
And which is not how he's kind of ever looked in public before.
So, yeah, that stuff's crazy. What I don't understand is... one thing that I actually think is interesting that we should talk about. So, South Korea wants to expand, like start developing nuclear weapons to push back against the North. But if they start developing nuclear weapons, sanctions would automatically set in, given there's some agreements that, you know, UN and other agreements worldwide, and the UN would have, or the US would have to sanction them per these agreements.
Yeah.
And so the US is kind of pushing back on saying, you know, you shouldn't develop nuclear weapons. You're under our nuclear umbrella. But part of the reporting is South Korea doesn't feel satisfied with the US's nuclear umbrella, that they want to start developing their own.
That doesn't make sense to me.
It's weird, isn't it?
Like, you're covered. Like, you're fine. Like, it's not like the US can't drop a nuke anywhere on the planet.
They can store U.S. nukes. I mean, South Korea can store U.S. nukes if they wanted. I mean, you got to figure we have nukes everywhere. We have to have nukes across all of Western Europe, Australia. I'm sure we have them in New Zealand, Japan. Like, we have them everywhere. It's just maybe not as much in South America. I don't know. I doubt we have any in South America, actually. But Canada,
probably
for example,
have some.
There's probably some secrets.
It's probably covered, at least. Like, you at least get stuff close enough that you could, like, deal with anything in South America.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine they'd ever, like, leave that up to chance.
Yeah, and so that I just thought that was interesting that South Korea wanted to start developing their own nuclear weapons, because the North is doing it. You have to imagine that the North is developing nuclear weapons, but
it can't be that hard to do, right? Like, it's not a secret how to do it.
I don't think it's a secret how to do it. I think most countries can do it. I think getting the stuff to do it, the resources to, like, develop it, maintain it, have the facilities to transport it, secure it, I think that's kind of where the difficulty sets in. Because
it's that, like, enriched uranium or whatever that you need. That's
why, like, Iran, for example, or Syria, very difficult for them, I feel like, to have a real secure nuclear arsenal, whereas those countries, I'm sure, if they could, would develop as many nuclear weapons as they can. Yeah.
Let's see, what else has happened? I'm trying to think. It's been so long that I can't. I feel like so much has happened that I can't remember.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what that was. Sounds going on. No, but if we go back to the Biden stuff, Biden, like we said, a bunch of documents were uncovered. The DOJ assigned a special prosecutor, and every time I hear special prosecutor, I just think of Robert Mueller and how degenerate that investigation was. But we'll see how quickly this one kind of gets resolved or anything like that. I mean, Biden can't be charged while he's in office. So I always find that these investigations into presidents are so tedious, because as much as the DOJ says that they aren't at the behest of the president,
they're not going to get charged.
The attorney general will take the president's phone call any day, anytime.
And,
you know.
So what happens? Do you think the Republicans in the House, like, start an impeachment?
They'll investigate it. For sure. And if stuff comes out, they'll try to impeach him. It'll be a wasted effort. But I think the Republicans still hold a vendetta over the two.
Well, but that's, I mean, yeah, like, that's par for the course now, right?
Yes.
If you find something like that, like, that's the response.
Well, absolutely.
And that got established.
I mean, the Democrats set that precedent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem. And I still have some worry about not only the precedent they set by impeaching Trump twice, which I think this, in my opinion, the second one's more valid than the first. I've always thought the first impeachment on Trump was a total farce, but that's besides the point. I worry about the precedent they're also setting by raiding Mar-a-Lago, because if you're going to raid Mar-a-Lago and treat these classified documents this seriously, you better be treating them this seriously when it comes to Biden.
Well, it's like the Clinton thing, right? Like the Clinton emails.
Yeah.
Where she had like classified stuff on her personal computer, and it was like, and deleted stuff.
Crazy that she wasn't charged, by the way.
Well, not even really investigated. There wasn't like that much of a uproar about it.
Other than in the House. The House the Republican-controlled House had a heyday with that one. But not only that, Hillary did some crazy stuff. I mean, Benghazi was crazy. The emails deleting was crazy. She was kind of a cluster.
Well, she was just
crap.
she was in politics for so long that I think she just like got comfortable. Like, right? She was in politics like for forever.
So long.
So, yeah.
But I don't know. So we'll see what happens with Biden. I kind of tend to think nothing will happen. I think it's going to be a whole lot of gobbledygook, but
the problem is it's like, well, how do you justify the response to like what happened with Trump and then not do the same thing to Biden?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. They set themselves a really difficult precedent by raiding Trump with 80 FBI agents combing through his entire house with the Secret Service there. And now you have Biden, who really probably should get raided at this point. They keep finding documents. They keep finding documents, which means there's more out there. They haven't found them all because on numerous occasions, they found more and more documents, which means there's more out there. I'm sure it's the same with Trump, but the Republicans didn't do that. So now that the Democrats have the DOJ, dude, this is why I really think that I was thinking about this the other day. I think that the DOJ should be an independent branch, not an independent branch, an independent, kind of like the Federal Reserve.
Like the CIA?
Ooh, maybe not the CIA. The CIA is not great. I mean, there's a lot of stuff the CIA has done that's not too great. But I mean like the Federal Reserve, where it's not directly under the president's purview, but the president has a decent amount of influence. Congress has a decent amount of influence. Congress has to, I would like to see more of that. But
well, yeah, just give Congress more control of the DOJ. Like, it's not entirely executive.
Yeah, and more transparency, right? The fact that they can hide answers to Congress, like, oh, it's a part of an ongoing investigation. I don't know how many different committee hearings I've watched. It's part of an ongoing investigation. I can't answer it. I'm sorry, but Congress was elected by the people. They should have access to confidential information regarding, even if it's a select number of people, and even if it's not publicly disclosed, there are Congress members that are saying we cannot have access to this information.
Yeah, we don't know this stuff that we need to know.
They need to be given access to the information, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It should not be just the president that can learn about that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Last thing, maybe we'll end on this. But a lot of economists are projecting a recession. Rates have gone up from, a low of people were buying homes at 2%. Now they're at 6.5%, a lot of them. And what's crazy is I think that, this is where I was getting with it. I just kind of remember my point. But they're projecting a recession, and there was an article I was reading the other day that Secretary Yellen, who's part of the Treasury, she's the head of the Treasury, I think. No, she's part of head of the Secretary of the Treasury. She came out and said that if a deal isn't a big spending deal isn't agreed this year, that the U.S. is going to default on its debt, which is really, really rare. And I haven't seen that in a while, but the fact that she's worried about it leads me to believe that maybe there is cause for concern, because usually the Treasury and the Fed aren't going to come out and say that kind of stuff if they aren't worried about it.
I wonder if it's a little bit too kind of trying to poke Congress a little bit, just like, hey, get this done, because I can't imagine the U.S. Because that's like Greece, right?
That was a big one. Yeah.
I mean, like, defaulting on their debts is
Well, I
kind of
think
a big
Greece
deal.
went straight up bankrupt. I think it
guess
was really bad.
yeah, so I guess that's not quite Greece, but
Well, the way I understand it is different countries have literal credit ratings, and it would downgrade the United States credit rating if they were to default on the debt,
dang.
which would cause a recession.
Yeah, I know that'd be a problem.
So,
Okay.
be interesting, but
Yeah.